I think the radio's at a perfect level for this, and the dog. I gave him a thing. He took it, but isn't seeming to chew it. So hopefully he'll be okay. I was eating his food. I'm just gonna wait for people to tune in, and I definitely have some things I'd like to talk about that I think could be good topics for us today. And this is what's this will for me at the moment. So with the not driving, not being able to rent a space and all that, I don't really want to put you up this, and you don't have to today. And you said you haven't been in here that long, but if you're going to be distracting, I'll have to put you up there. Okay, I gave you a thing. Where did you put it? Where did you put it? Because I know you didn't finish it off. Are you being extra sneaky this morning, Sonny? And you went and hit that so that it. Okay, here it is. Found it. Let me give you another one. I know we were giving you other ones for a while there, and you may have preferred that. But sorry for the distraction right away. It would have been even more distracting if I hadn't addressed that. But now it's fine. I've just seen some interesting things. So, what do I start with? I feel like he's just wanting to be involved in the podcast today, which is well, but there is somebody here now, and I just started rolling. But two of the things that I want to talk about, I think, are especially, for lack of a different way to put it, viewer centric or viewer for engaging with, but any of them could be. And since the person left, I think I'll start with the ones that I feel are least so, that maybe I just need to talk through a little bit, or that I just need to vent about, because there may not be a solution. But the one there might be, though. And it's interesting. She's actually the older, well, neither of them are hugely into technology, but they've got about 20 years or so difference from each other. I know it's a bit more of the personal things, but with the topic of suppression, which I know sounds like depression, and they can connect. I am thinking of a couple things with that too, though. I mean, one of the things is obviously emotions. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna have to take care of our hyper dog at the moment. He doesn't seem to want his chew stick, which is a little unusual. So you know what? Unfortunately, you're gonna have to go to space. I know you don't want to. I'm wondering if I'm going back up there when I wasn't going to. There's something else that you have that we just picked out for that day. Sorry to be down right away. Normally what works with the dog. So, and this is the other bag. Oh, luckily you're not seeing. Oh wow, we got 3 of you here and 1 like. Cool. Thanks for your patience. But then, as soon as I come here, it looks like y'all disappeared. But that may not be accurate, because sometimes it isn't, I've noticed. I don't think it is. I don't think I have all that other stuff in it. So where's the one I have from yesterday? Then it's over here. Sorry. I'm not sure, but okay. I guess I don't. I meant to find it right now. Wasn't the backpack, I know that much. There was just some things I was looking for that I had with me the other day, but it's not urgent, so I won't worry about it. Thank you, Sonny. We had 3 people here. Maybe they would have stayed if I, but it was right at the beginning, and I wasn't, But for those that aren't aware, who haven't been to the channel before, we got 2 of you here. Our dog gets hyper sometimes when I'm podcasting, like he gets vocal. I don't know what it is, other than the fact that he's trained us to give him a treat to, I guess, suppress that. Sorry, it's a laptop and just kind of slid there for a moment. To suppress that. And so anywho, we were joking this morning about how G had kept jumping at G's leg, the other person on this channel, and we were out on the deck and we said, "Oh, it's balls treat, back and forth with him." Anywho, curious who we got watching, if you've ever been to the channel before, and with suppression. I wish there was a different word for it. I don't know. Suppression kind of is a funny word, but I think it's that it sounds like depression. Maybe that's part of it, which again, they do feed into each other sometimes. Um, um, I would say that the common ones are emotions, but it's again, well, I'm going to address that in a moment when somebody comes back because I don't think there's anybody here right now, unless it's being inaccurate along the top. I wonder if I need to just giving like because she's really funky with her audio issues. So certainly isn't watching them, but she is online right now, so maybe she is. Gave it a quick like. Bit nice if she would have told me she was the one, then at least know. But it's not that she's not supportive. Anyway, so again, and sorry for the slow start. Some of my videos are better than others, but I do have some I think worthwhile content I want to get into here. It's just I'm very free spirited about it. In fact, I am able to at the whoops, not yet. During, and I'm just gonna put okay. It was no room in the title for it anyway, um so yeah, I do apologize. It's kind of early here, but I got some ideas and I wanted to come with them, or at least I got some base ideas for us to look at together. Um, sorry, had something in my tooth, but I think I got it. So while there's nobody here, even though it's at the beginning, I'm going to go on about something for about 10 or 15 minutes, probably. Although I guess I might switch gears and come back to it if somebody does tune in. It's not that I don't want to hear from people on these particular two things. It is bright out, but it didn't feel very bright with the light off. Anyway, we all have people in our lives, right? And it's not that these are hugely unusual, but it's a bit unique. The two individuals I'm thinking of who don't really spend a lot of time online, and basically, might want to. I'm gonna put some socks on, so just a moment. My feet are cold. I guess I could have put those shoes on, but right now I'm feeling more like socks. And then I'm going to try and pick this up before somebody tunes in and it's like wobble, wobble, wobble. I don't think I need the AC on right now, but I guess we'll see about the AC. So sorry for the bit of a bouncy and wild start to things. I don't know if that's going to be distracting to people, but I'd rather have it behind me anyway. It's still kind of showing, but there. Aren't I nice? Anywho, yes, I are. Oh, we got 2 likes. Cool. Glad to have you here. It doesn't show anybody's watching, but sometimes it just takes it. Yep, now it does. So I will, I think, talk about the suppression thing. Sometimes it's emotions, and it's how do we work with our emotions in a positive way, right? Um, but there's another example, and I do kind of want to share it. I didn't know how early I wanted to share it, and it kind of connects to the two people on my mind right now as well. I'm curious also who we've got watching. I have it on all chats, so that should include super chats too, and it's not. Anyway, I am curious who we got watching. If you've been to the channel before, how you came across this video, and I'm glad to have you here. And this isn't scripted, so just please bear with me as I decide how I want to kind of express certain things. I was kind of getting in the mode of talking about my concern for a couple of friends, and I guess my aside from venting about that, my idea behind that would be, I mean, we can all relate to feeling that kind of thing sometimes, would maybe be to get some support, because I talk about sometimes on this channel how this particular chapter in my life, well, you know, kind of the older you get, but young people go through things too. But I don't have a lot of living local family, and I mostly have acquaintances. So I mean, it's all very random. A lot of the times, it seems like one of the people on my mind. We've always had some things in common. We have more things in common now. He lost his mother 2 or 3 years ago. Their mother, and wasn't close with the mother. Not super close. They had a bit of a hard relationship. So, but what I seem to understand is that it's still kind of hard to have went through that, and to you still deal with grief. I think Zen's biggest one is the grief of what could have been, or the wishes for what could have been between them. Um, and I love the view there, but or at least it looks like it. But and I know I feel that with my dad, about my dad, not just my dad, but and when we talk about like people passing away again, yeah, still not just my dad, but anyway, but that's a big one, I would say. I am feeling, I don't know if it's because it's morning or what, but I am feeling like this light is a bit bright, so I'm going to turn it off and see how that is for us. I don't think the radio is too loud. Sometimes it seems to be a bit louder than I think it is, but any quieter and it would be off. And I might put the AC on just to kind of move the air, and then it'll be even quieter, but there'll still be sound and you'll still hear me. So I'm just coming back to the couch now. And then I seem to have a shortage of pillows to rest this on. Here's one. And I know we don't have a shortage of pillows, but here's one. This will work. It's a laptop. So, yeah, within 12 minutes, I got 2 likes, which is nice. And likes are great. Views are kind of all right too. I do prefer likes and comments, though. They make it more worthwhile. I feel they show that people are enjoying the content, and it's meaningful for them. It's I don't know how to put it, but I think you know what I'm trying to say. But anyway, so it was a bit disappointing because I didn't exactly have a fallout with this particular person. And this is not just me venting my problems, I promise, but it's also that. I didn't exactly have a fallout with this person. It's just I stopped going to the group that we knew each other from. I just did. I think it was hard for me to get to. It wasn't happening super often. I'm just wondering where I put my thingamajig. Not back in here, I don't think. Nope. So that's good. Oh, there it is. And it's not that I didn't get along with people there. It's just, and actually, I made a connection. There was actually a guy that lived very close to me, uh, kind of across the street from my apartment building at the time. I found out a couple quite weird things, though, but we connected a few times. Surprisingly, not as much as one would think, but I guess he was quite busy or worked a lot or something. I don't remember, but this other guy though, this other individual that I'm talking about was just kind of hard to reach, and he admitted that he was like that with that he was just that kind of person sometimes, and I'm not saying that his reasons weren't valid or aren't valid. I do think that maybe he could try and go out of his comfort zone a bit more. He's also got a couple of teenagers now, so you know, um, they've also got a couple of teenagers. So teenagers, yes, they often keep to themselves, but I think they're pretty. Uh, I think I don't know their family dynamic super well, but I think I don't know that they're he's a perfect. This person is a perfect example. I'm not as much so, but the two people I'm thinking of, which kind of sparked this, are perfect examples, and I'm trying to be as anonymous about this as I can be. Um, somehow doesn't have the device with audio, so she's like, "Oh, this is a good topic." Yeah, it's about you. But these people that I'm talking about, I do care about them. I do care about them, and I want to make sure that you realize that. Um, um, we can address these topics in the way that would be most helpful for you, for sure. Open to that. Um, but until you put comments, I think I'm just going to go with what, uh, or I think I'm going to start with what makes most sense with what's on my mind. Again, I'm not actually a person that suppresses much. I mean, I come online almost every day and I post a video and I say a bunch of stuff. Like I mostly don't hold back. Um, I would say there's more suppression than suppression for me. Owning your truth. That is something that I included in the title, and I did have a particular reason. Of the two people I'm thinking about right now, I think one would understand more this particular example because they live it. And they're a bit young, they're a little bit younger. He's close to my age, so he's maybe a little bit younger than me, but he's close to 40. They're close to 40. Um, and so we're 18 minutes in. That's not super far in, but it's kind of far in. But yeah, and you know what? It feels like it should be brighter in here. Like the sky is blue and bright, but it's with the light off, but it felt too bright with it on, and that was not going to make much difference. Or those two, I don't think. So it's okay, and it looks pretty bright on the screen. So as long as I look at that, we'll be good. So sorry, I'm taking a while to express this. I'm trying to figure out the best way because even though I say that this I don't know if I call this person just a friend or just an acquaintance or a friend. I'd want to call this person a friend. And I think that, yeah, like I say, when we briefly stopped talking, it wasn't because of anything that had really happened between us. And I found a way, kind of an interesting way, to reconnect with the person. And we emailed a little bit. Um, that was, I think, his kind of preferred method anyway. Um, and honestly, things have fallen kind of flat. I mean, what I can say about this person, who I do care about, is that they are dealing with mental health issues. They are raising teenagers. I mean, two teenage boys, or to my knowledge, that's how they identify. Um, Both of you aren't right just before that, but they are. And I've known this individual for quite a while, and I'm really, truly am hoping for the best for this person. For probably 12 years, 12 to 14. I mean, when you think I've been here for like 19, 20 years, and I've lived in this home for 8 years, and I knew him for at least 4 or 5 years before that. So it's quite a long time. However, we haven't always been in steady contact, like I say. Um, but I do know that he has. I don't know if it was just with me and where we met that he was honest, but I remember when I first met this individual, I don't remember him saying to me anyway, I'm trying to figure out how to share something with my wife, share a particular thing with his wife. Um, what I more so remember is he said, "Yes, my wife knows, and she's really great," or something of that nature. And if you, whether you've seen the content before or not, because sometimes we get into this sort of topic, you may guess what I'm referring to. So, and we talked about it a little bit yesterday, actually, but not in the same way. This individual is a bisexual man, and his wife is very supportive. She's been with him at Pride a couple times at least. I don't think Pride is really something that he goes to very much, and that's a whole other topic, about, you know, we don't have to talk about opinions about Pride necessarily. Uh, but in the past 3 or 4 years, I don't know if it was since his mother's passing or not. And again, you can see the comment. I'm trying to be anonymous about this person. I mean, there's some specifics, but I this person is still not the only one that relates to this. I feel, and and we're going to cover a bunch of different topics here. So, but I don't know if it was since his mother passed, but he's also been exploring something else, which is something that I sometimes feel could be a topic worth discussing here as well, just in general, in the view left, but I'll just say it anyway. Um, Gender identity, yeah, gender. um, and I don't know if the wife knows about that yet, and I don't know the wife, but they have practically been high school sweethearts. She might be a little bit younger than this friend, but they are definitely, like I say, they have teenagers, and I think they're probably close to 40. Um, and they've been with each other for a long time now. Unfortunately, and I hate to talk about things like this, unfortunately, for various reasons, sometimes people can be with each other in a relationship for a long time and it doesn't last. I think as long as both have empathy and, whether they seek help or work through things with themselves or whatever, as long as they're continuing to put in the effort. But I also know that a lot of people feel, and I sometimes relate to this myself as I'm slowly getting older. A lot of people feel that as they get older, they just don't want the glad to have you both here. Feel free to weigh in. They don't want the hassle of dealing with. They figure, I don't know. Maybe the things, I don't know. Basically, the point of the matter is that, and again, I don't know her, but I would think that she would be accepting. I would think that she would be, especially because she was already accepting about the other bit, and they've stayed together for a long time. So it's sad. I mean, and I don't know. I don't know what I don't know. So possibly he has shared this friend has shared that detail with the wife as well, and I hope so. I hope so because I think it would go well. I could understand maybe why this individual would not, especially dealing with mental health issues, and so anxiety is probably definitely one of them. And and knowing things like, yeah, like, I mean, I'm thinking of a couple in their 50s or 60s I knew since I was a child. In fact, they're 70s, but they've been split for 5 to 10 years. uh, Maybe not quite 10 years, but almost. Anywho, but if my friend is able to be honest with the wife and the kids, I'm not really sure what his difficulties are, other than that we get into patterns. We get into patterns of suppression. We get into patterns of being, which are sometimes hard to, or habits, right? Which are sometimes hard to change. Not impossible, but hard to change. And so I'm thinking if he can be open with the wife, they can be open with um, their teens who are, on the, older side of things a little bit. Um, Aside from, like I say, the loss of the mother, I'm not sure. I can't remember. I know this individual has told me about the relationship with the dad. It was a little better, but not much, I don't think. And it doesn't really matter how old you get. I mean, the older you get, the easier it can be in some ways, and sometimes the need to be more independent and kind of less reliant on our parents is a thing. I mean, I know that there are a lot of young people that, like teens and up, that, and some parents aren't great. It's true. I do think that sometimes teens maybe make it a bit difficult though, or they could try more. But I'd say it's part of being a teen, but not all teens are like this. And I mean, I had a single parent, when I was in that age group, and I'm also a bit of a late bloomer, I think. But I mean, like, so I wasn't, you know, but um, but the truth of the matter is, folks, that sure, you can have other people that are like parent figures for you, but you only have the parents you got. And I know, I'm not going to tell you, oh, just, forgive everything, and there was briefly a person there, but maybe they recently lost their parents, and that was hard for them to hear. Sorry, but maybe you should have stuck around, and maybe something would have been helpful. Maybe they'll come back. Who knows? Anywho, so I think sometimes you have to decide what is um, what you kind of want from. Um, I don't know if I want this on or not. I feel like I want. Okay, yeah. Okay. So, anywho, um, I don't know if I expressed that very well, but anyway. So I feel bad because I feel a lot of things about this connection. I mean, part of me feels like we have some things in common. I'd like to be there for this person. I've got the availability to do so. I'm also in a couple of groups online that might be helpful, but again, he's not really. He prefers solitude. He prefers being out in nature, and it's not that I dislike those things, but they're not my preferred method when I'm struggling, or you know, yeah, you know, uh, a little bit, but not, definitely not a preference. So, um, Um, but I'll state it here, I think, because sorry, I have lotion on my hands. And I'm trying to do the pattern to. There we go. Um, I'll state it here. Well, will I? I don't know. Um, so this will all kind of connect, and then we'll see. What kind of you want to talk about connected to this. Stuff. But what you relate to on the topic, not necessarily the examples, but maybe, but the topic. But I'm also a little bit worried about the friend I was with the other day there. She is close to 60. Again, these two people don't spend a lot of time on YouTube, so they're not likely to see this. I did send one a link, and it may have been one of the last things I've sent the previous person I was talking about, just to, a particular video of mine. But I'm thinking it's not super likely. Um, Unfortunate a little bit, but whatever. Uh, but the person I was with the other day, so we drove to something that wasn't super duper far by car. We parked, we walked around to the front to find out that we actually had to enter from the back for some weird reason. Uh, so we walked back around, we did that. We went up to the desk. We knew we were quite early. We flew down, we got down there pretty quick. And we asked if there was any cafes around. And I can switch gears. By the way, I'm talking about one of the topics in the title, but if you want to talk about and you left anyway, or at least it looks like you have. Anywho, along the top there, but that's not always accurate. If there was any cafes nearby, she's unfortunately really struggling financially. She said, "I don't." She said that I don't think she was that aware of the one place that was mentioned. She didn't go downtown very often either. Mostly sticks in her neighborhood, I think. Even my neighborhood, which is next to her neighborhood, she didn't really seem to be very. I was surprised, and she's lived in the city probably longer than I have. Again, we can switch gears to the topic of suppression. The one anyway. Like, oh no, don't switch gears. If you're on a topic, stay on topic. Maybe, and other people are like, well, I came here talking about this. Doesn't sound like you're talking about that. No, I'm more talking about this other friend that I'm concerned about. So anyway, we walked to a cafe that is it's a chain here, and it's honestly, I don't think it, and I think some other people agree, but obviously many people don't. I think it's not as great as it used to be. I don't know. And it was fairly busy, but that was maybe like in front of the parking lot that we parked in, which was a big parking lot, but I'm going to say less than a 10-minute walk. And then we walked back to the building and we sat in there until the meeting that I was at. And I had made some suggestions, and maybe she did do some of them, like reading a book or whatever. But I'd, made some suggestions. I guess, she was having just that morning. She had to refill some of her tires. She was having some difficulty with her vehicle, and she's older. Like I say, she's not really actually really into cell phones. Doesn't have one. Um, you know, I don't think she had a laptop. She had a bag with some stuff with her, and she may have went briefly to her car. I don't know. Maybe she did go for a walk. I know that she's been having some health problems and supposed to have a doctor's appointment, but she, I guess, felt that she promised me before she realized that she'd double booked, so she just changed the thing because she knew she couldn't change mine. That's probably what it was too, and because we hadn't seen each other in a while. But she's saying that it took a lot out of her physically. I mean, it was a bit of a long afternoon. We were with each other, yeah, most of the afternoon, and then she was at my place, our place, for a little while too, and she was standing almost the whole time because we were looking through some stuff. So, and she was getting right into it, like like less than that, but I still didn't think she did. From what I saw, I don't think she did anything strenuous. She did say something about how she's not in his, you know, uh, you know, that I forget her exact wording, but assumed that because I'm young and I said, oh, I'm getting close to 40 and I have my days, that's for sure, that I would be able to walk further distances and stuff. I'm a little bit worried about, even though she mostly seemed like the same person that I'd seen many, many months ago. I'm a little bit concerned because we were talking about a rental house nearby that is been empty for about 4 weeks now. So a month, maybe even a month and a half at this point, and there's been no sign go up. And I said that in a message to her, a message, but still. And she said, and she did see this bright and early this morning, but she's well 8:50. She is up kind of early a lot of the times. It seems like sometimes like she may have even been up for an hour or two by then. She says, if it is up for rent and full house, I think she means renovated. I think is what she means. But that's a good show, isn't it? Back in the day. And I'm saying, no, it's not up for rent. There's no sign. I already said that. So an example of her functioning. I mean, she's close to 60, like I say. Anyway, uh, well, you might have roommates. So I'd like to make it into like a drop-in center personally, because she's thinking you might have to pay 2,000 plus utilities a month. Yeah, well, that wouldn't fall all on me. But then I could have a grant if only I could, or I don't know. Like I still don't know if Canada Startups is legit or not. But then I could um, look into that kind of thing, which might help. And I could maybe offer programs and stuff by donations. I'll say I understand that there are free options out there, but I would appreciate, and I have to listen to that one about saving lives or whatever I called it before I go out tomorrow morning, um, around the morning. I do appreciate that. Um, there are other places out there that don't go by donation and they're free and they're funded by the government, which I can say, I can say this is a recently open place, which has not, is we're still working through the funding options or whatever. Some of you may have tried the other places before. You may not have. I hope you'll give this a try, and I hope that you'll find it worth it. I might also make note, if this ever comes to be, that they don't have to donate every time they come. But if they can donate when they can, that would be appreciated. Um, Now it's for some reason went out of the message, so I have to go back into it. Um, but yeah, it's been unfortunate. There's been no sign up. I was not with it very. I guess I wasn't as with it as I could have been the day that I saw the sign on the door and went and looked. And I did take a picture, but it was kind of blurry. I basically just found out it was a rental, was reminded of the previous owner's name because it was just one family that lived there, and did not note down the rental agency. And it's, some people would say maybe not meant to be, but it, even though it's very nearby, it very much felt like it was. And things had, I need to know what is, and I need to get it, kind of thing. But so we can talk anyway. And there's somebody there for a few seconds as I said that, but she actually is suggesting she could be short notice with a phone call, and I mostly could be too. I'm tempted to wait until next week though, when things slow down a little bit. In fact, we used to do Monday calls. Uh, I'm still unsure what's single about Mark. If you see this, um, it's true. Sometimes it doesn't. It'd be more of a conversation, than sometimes here ends up being. But You wait it out, and sometimes eventually it picks up. And we're already 2 likes in, so that's nice. Somebody liked something, or was just being supportive, but they very well may have actually liked something specifically, and maybe intend to come back. So, sorry, my device is being a bit wonky that I'm trying to read this on. Um, but yeah, so what is something that you feel? I don't remember if I put it in the phrase in the terms of a question, in the title, and you left. At least it looks like you did. And if you didn't, you might know what I was going to ask based on the title. And I don't know why she thinks that that's an old term. I really don't. Yes, I guess I'm probably watching. No, I think in that message I left him recently, I think I gave this one. So I'm going to keep that one out. That's stuck on this. What was it about this again when I went to the page? Not necessarily a lock profile, it just has nothing on it. Except for a cover photo, a profile photo. And he posted into the group, "Hi, I'm new here," in a picture. And he said something very nice to this person who looked like a kind of mean person. But he himself said, "We're on this group to support each other and take each other's hand to comfort and happiness. So if you need to talk, we're always here for you, like one big family. Greetings from Egypt." And then another person right above it said, "If you need to vent, I'm here." And then on the same day, I don't know how much afterwards, says, "Has she reached out to anyone?" And I thought that was very caring. That was very caring of both of them. Actually, I think I do recognize it. I didn't in the picture that she posted to the group, but I do recognize that one there. Um, I feel slightly called to look a bit closer, though, for right now, at some other ones I'm in, and I want to talk about that for a moment too. So that this it's all kind of fitting together. Um, I don't know why there's 2 different threads to this, because I've just been using the one. I think this thing is being weird. Okay, it let me back out of the message. Will it let me mark it as new from the inbox instead of from the message? Yes. There was something weird I noticed about photo. Okay, now it's corrected. Show his one there. Another way part, but he probably guesses why it was special. Why it's special, and it probably does make sense. She also misspelled something, but I don't know. I told her the whole story about it the other day. Actually, and now I said no, it's not vowels, it's YN. She's a pretty thoughtful person, but it seems like this morning, just after 8:30, she was actually kind of just I don't know what she's got going on today and this and that, but it sounds like she's resting from yesterday, which again was not that strenuous. But if she needs to, she needs to. She really wasn't thinking very well, but she's also apparently, even though she said she'd had to put some things in place, and she sounded like, as far as starting a group, she sounded like she was kind of trying to tell me what they were, but not very obviously. Like I did, we were getting close to my place. I didn't quite process it, and I don't think she quite said it either, to be honest. But then she went and called the place right away and found out. But I told her I don't prefer that location. I suggested another great one, and I told her I called it, and I was very surprised they were closed at 4 p.m. because I would think they'd be open, especially now that school's in. Well, in general, at least till 6 or 8. They also open sometimes at 12. The library. not necessarily for books, but I'm a little bit worried because I know that library, and I don't remember there being rooms that you can book. There might be a section of it that I don't know, but compared to the one in my old neighborhood, which had, I think, two big ones along the back corner, one closer to the front, at least three. Anywho, this friend has a phrase which I also find weird, but I don't know if there's going to be any stopping her using it because it's one of her phrases. Um, and I'm not trying to judge. It's just I don't know if I can. But I understand that the point she's making with it, and yeah, makes sense to me. You're born in this lifetime with yours, with your purpose, is what she's saying. This is this is this is the message I saw first, and what especially prompted this. But I want to talk about the other truth for a moment. Okay, I had an idea to do something today, not online, well, not on YouTube anyway, but here I am talking about it, I suppose. And all I can say is if somebody has never came to a place in their life where they feel like this is something for them or they've accepted that it might be, they can't say. I did a video the other day, and I think it was the only one I did, where about 30 minutes in, maybe 40, uh, I definitely before the songs at the end, which was about 20, probably 20 minutes, 15 minutes, I said some things I don't really feel like repeating, but they would be worthwhile hearing if you feel like, you're not convinced that, you know, your life is your life, our life is our life, and anybody else's life is theirs. And so I thought about doing something today that just briefly, um, and yes, the other day was quite nice. It wasn't all I'd hoped for, and that was disappointing. And it's just it truly is hard, especially when things are structured and it's not like just free chat. Like you're talking with each other, but you're not just kind of going to the person you want to talk with most, or people you want to talk with most, talk with them. You're kind of, I don't know how to explain it other than this, but it needed to be more than one get together to form connections, and then it was just like a study group kind of thing, where this lady had some questions, and the leader, and she was asking us for input. Um, One, the things that I've been telling her I'm into, you know, fashion wise. Two, I will I will never forget. I can't remember how it came up, other than that the community and stuff is something that we've talked about a little bit before. And like I say, she's in her 50s or 60s, but that's not really, I don't think it's an important detail necessarily. I don't know, maybe it is. Basic, because maybe it was, I don't know. It's not that she doesn't talk about it much, but when she's been single for a while, I think. I'm not sure if she's a widow or separated, but anyway. And she says, I asked her once, and she said, or so I said, and I can't remember if she may have just said her, past significant other or something like that. I don't know if she said a gender, but she may have. And maybe at the time I was looking for someone to relate to. So I said, what is your orientation, if I may ask? And she said, I would say that it's bi. And this other individual that I was talking to, like I say, him too, or them too. And but I don't think I do feel like they're both suppressing it. And a perfect example with this lady friend is she says, "You're a gay man." I'm in a same sex relationship, but I never said I was a gay man to her. Never. And I would have hoped and thought that as, even though, sure, she may not be actively in the community. Sure, she's older. She still is who she is. And for me, although sometimes I think it might be a good idea to suppress attractions, not that I, am doing anything unconsensual or legal. I mean, rape's not like rape that, um, but um, I just my mind went right away to she must be suppressing who she is, and it's reflecting on what she's saying because otherwise she wouldn't have worded it that way. And again, she's not trying to be mean, but she wouldn't have worded it that way because she would know how we relate to each other. I don't know how one can. I mean, even if she doesn't go out every single day, I don't know how one can go about their day, um, and um, not think, yeah, that person's attractive. And sometimes, as a bi individual, they'll be the same gender. Like, I mean, but she must be doing that. Or she would have said something to the effect of, "You're a great guy that's in a same sex or a same gendered relationship." Um, I see it because I wouldn't call it a gay relationship because one of us isn't. You know, and I sometimes wonder if he is or isn't. To be honest, I mean, I sometimes wonder if he is also bi. Is what I'm trying to say. I guess it is non-male traditional with a heart that likes to help others. That is accurate. As such, your purpose comes with two layers. The first is to love and accept yourself without fear and judgment. And I think when she asked me the other day, what am I most proud about? That I am trying to be there for others, but as far as like I do see growth that I've had, and I do accept myself. And that actually would be pretty hard to break if anybody is thinking of saying, oh, let's do let's negatively eat at this. Like, I'm not necessarily weak within that. That being said, the other day, the thing that I was going to, I had thought there was going to be more obviously trans non-binary people at it. There was someone that kind of threw me off briefly. She reminded me of somebody I used to work with, who is in the community, but had been not living in this city, but maybe she moved back. But then she also had a different name and different voice. I mean, people change these things. It's true. She did have a couple of teenagers. So did this person, but they were a close age. I can't remember. She said she had worked in daycare. No, she used to work in more. Not the daycares aren't laborious, but she used to work in kind of more manly professions. The one that or I don't mean to say manly professions, but construction. I think tech a little bit too. And then the call center. Um, and she was smiling, but then the lady I was with too said, she looks familiar to me too, but I don't know why. But like when we were waiting in the waiting room, she kept looking at us and smiling. Or maybe she just thought, oh, they look like good friends. They look like they're enjoying each other's company, or they seem like cool people, or something. I don't know, or something else in her head. Who knows? The and I so wanted to offer, if you need somebody alongside of you to feel more comfortable when you're going out and about, because it's a group of people that might feel like they don't. And I did sense it. I did. I mean, but then again, they were being asked specific questions, so they were giving answers. I mean, some people didn't like security guards. Some people were happy for their presence, and some people thought that it was too much or too evasive or whatever. And I guess I understand both sides of things, but yeah. But why I think she's saying it, unless she's just saying it in a general sense, is because she had thought that I was going to be a bit more stylish while I was out the other day, but it was a mixed health. And she even asked, "Is it like a clinic? What is this place?" It's been around for ages. She's been in the city for ages. I didn't really know, but it definitely seemed mixed. It seemed like a detox center. It seemed like a it was a big building, and we were only in a small portion of it. But I just didn't really. I felt like I was going to stand out, and I just didn't really. I guess what it was is it's not that I felt hugely uncomfortable doing so. I just didn't really feel like I needed to. She may have said, own your truth or whatever. And so this is an example of it, I would say, is I'm going to own my truth. It's not that she's trying to be mean or just or say no, I think you're really gay. Like somebody in the chat the other day, but they stayed and they talked. I was very clear with who I was. Then they said, "Oh, you're gay." I don't know if they were asking or whatever, and it was like, didn't I just say otherwise? Like, it's not quite the same thing, folks. And then I found out religion may have been part of why he asked or why he replied that way. But he chatted with me for a bit more, and not even just on that. He didn't even seem to be overly excited when he was kind of religious, and I did a couple of religious songs. He said I sang well, and that was nice, but he didn't really seem to say, "Okay, it's good that you do believe in God." But I'd also said it was Gnostic, but that doesn't mean you don't believe in God. And he's like, just he didn't preach at me. Maybe I seemed more confident than I don't know. I don't know, but it's all good. Anyway, so yeah, I just felt like I was gonna stick out. She almost convinced me to wear this white pink sweater. Somebody else was wearing one too, but she was the one. And then she came in near the end. This lady that was dressed like that, and said she couldn't say she had a family emergency. She finished, or she sat down. She finished drinking. She didn't seem to be moving that slow, but she also just kind of seemed to be that way. I mean, that fast rather. Maybe whoever she'd talked with had said, this is happening, but don't worry, stay at your group. And maybe she felt a little torn. It's like, it's just one time, it's not real. And they were way too much food. And I'd love to have some, even though it's not huge in my kind of thing, and I need to eat less bread. But they were sitting out for a little over an hour. Nobody thought to put the other tray in the fridge, or even the ones, Yeah, I can understand keeping the other one out, and it would still not there. I don't know if those cold cut sandwiches can be frozen, but it's like I have things I need to make sure I'm not sick for, and then maybe. She thinks when you own who you are and rock it, when you do this, you have fulfilled and become your life's purpose. Well, clearly not. Clearly not, because I have done that, and it's not the case. Maybe I haven't done it to a full enough capacity, but that's where the struggle has been, and I think that's very obvious from the visit. Um, and she also felt like this is the person that said that $6 for a coffee. I mean, a regular coffee, yeah, maybe, but probably only $2 cheaper than it would be anyway. I don't really buy coffee out and about, so somebody very briefly there. You've been given financial resources, aka my disability checks, just started, to help you do this without the needed and pressure to get and hold a job. And it's true. G doesn't pressure me. We'd both like it if I could find meaningful work. We both know that certain jobs would not be suitable for me. Um, it's interesting. It's very interesting. And I always thought that this, and I'm not saying she's not, but that this particular person was very put together. And, you know, I met her at a food bank. It's true. She was helping somebody else, but but she said she could only manage to do one a week. But then again, I said the one I go to, but then it's a specific. So. But then there's one there, and I don't know if that's out. But anyway, um, she drives. Not doesn't like to drive her car often because it's old. Um, she is leading some groups. Even if they're just small groups with friends or whatever. So I could say some things to her that I guess would kind of she's one of those people, and I guess sometimes I am too, or at least I try to be one of those people who is very good at kind of uplifting others, but isn't as strong for herself. She probably does try to be, but she isn't as strong for herself. And by the way, if there's anything that you'd like to say about the topic of the title of this video, feel free. Um, I'm just using an example, which I may have kind of already connected to the topic. This may not really be as connected, but she did say something like this in person the other day. Your challenges are a gift that financially support you in achieving your life's purpose. I might have to have her remind me, um, because it was mental health based, I believe. But if she saw it, like I've been rolling for an hour, things have been really quiet. So I mean, I feel bad she's not doing as well the next day. But like I say, she has some health problems, and some of it may be kind of the way she's forming thoughts. I don't know. I don't think it's Alzheimer's yet. I don't think it is. Not because of her age, because a lot of people do get it at that age. I just don't think it is. I don't know if she's saying, I'm sure I did misunderstand some things. I said what I sent is just a thought. It is what I work up with or what I woke up with. I think woke up with, but I mean work is a word, so that's a typo I did. I don't know for sure. So she has a few things she needs to do today. Yeah. So I don't want to say invalidated by the person that commented yesterday, who seemed like a decent person, really. Just not living that life and not educated, I guess, about it. Even though or maybe it was because of religion seeping into things. Even though we're living in 2025, almost 2026 now, eh? So I'm losing but I'm gonna make myself something to eat in a moment here. Um, but yes, so this is an example of some of the things that she was talking about and that I've been talking about. And this is where I think, acknowledging attractions, even though sometimes I think, oh, it's lust and I shouldn't be doing that. This is where I think it's also honoring who I am. And I would say who God planned for me to be. Um, and even though she's seeing something in one way that's not completely accurate, I know what is. I know what is. We had somebody there for like a second. They still believe that, but it doesn't look like it. And the other side, it kind of fell off the what's the rails or whatever the word is a little bit. Not like nothing super intense or whatever, but so I mean, this is just an example that keeps coming to mind. But you're welcome to say in the chat something that you feel that you're suppressing in your life. I forget what the second part in the title was at the moment, but again, and the viewer, or at least it looks like you have. Again, this may not be something you would all resonate with. It may be. Sit with it. Sit with it and ask yourself, regardless of your gender at birth. And I'm not saying, this is the other thing. I think that with sexuality, orientation, a lot of people think they have to pick. I'm not sure why they think that. They don't. With gender, a lot of people feel they have to pick. I'm not sure why they think that. They don't. You know? Um, like, you don't have to say, okay, it's probably very common for some people, I want to say especially guys, but maybe not only, to think, okay, if I deviate from the gender that I was assigned at birth, first of all, it doesn't make you weak. Okay. Second of all, um, they might think, okay, then I'm going to end up having to transition. I mean, I'm new in this journey. I mean, some of the things that brought it about have been things that aren't really connected to it, but kind of are, have been things that I have been uh, feeling for a while. I have known for about 12 to 15 years, probably already, that I am in the community. I already accept that. So it's not that much of a stretch to think that, and I think it's not saying that you have to be, but there's so many things that are a spectrum, so orientation and gender are some of them. Um, I think the fact that I am attracted to the feminine stuff, you know, manly men that are, consider themselves to, and may well be hetero, obviously are attracted to femininity, you know. It's not just that they want kids, and need the woman for that, Um, and I don't want that to come across the wrong way, but like they are, whether it's the fashion, usually it's the fashion on the body. I understand that. Um, or something. What they don't have, and a lot of men struggle when they're not in a relationship, or when they don't have that around them. It like in intimate ways, like they feel like they are lacking something. But I'll tell you this, and it's not necessarily just a kind of sexualized kind of thing. And a lot of them probably do things, in secret like this. But this is a great way of saying that so many of them probably have the desire to be more feminine. You know, Maybe not out in public, sure, but in general. And I've shared some recent examples about that in the other day's video. And one of the other ones, I don't know if I remember what it was titled because it was something that randomly came up. Essentially, a friend's husband has tried on her bras before, possibly with balloons, but whatever. And kind of likes the idea of having um, wearable, whats. So those are two ways in which suppressions can come up. And again, they can connect with emotions, they can connect with mental health. So, this is weird. I was type. Okay. Nobody's here right now, so it's not like I need to say it out loud because of that. I think I'm going to take these to the comments and maybe the descriptions. I don't know which one, but. And yeah. Okay, I'm kind of hungry. I'm kind of tired. So I think I'm going to wrap up now. Be interesting to see. I don't know where it goes. And I'll let you know. Most likely. And then. Yeah. Okay. So, fortunately, there has been a lot of dialogue in this particular video. Some are quieter than others. Many are pretty active in the chat. But yeah. So, wrapping her up, putting a bow on it. Honor your gifts as well. As long as they're for the greater good. Do something good for yourself. Enjoy them.